Hi everybody, thank you for coming. I'm Ed Friedman, I chair Friends of Merrymeeting Day. We have a couple of board members here tonight too. Tom Welling, in the way back, and Phil Rozowski here. Anyone else? I don't think so. Right. So I'm going to give you a little intro about what we do and who we are, and then a brief intro to our speaker, Ron. This is our 22nd annual winter speaker series. You would not know it the way I'm dressed. We just call it a speaker series, okay? So
I got sneakers.
Yeah, I got sneakers, I got flip-flops, so it's pretty nice out today. I'm going to go kind of too hot, too darn hot. So, some cards I brought in a little after the fact. They're over on the table there that have our series for the season. Second Wednesday of the month, October through May, and they will this year all be here, except for our annual meeting. Potluck supper, which is really fun, and they're all invited. Which will be over in the, what's it called, the Crown Alumni Building in Bowdoin on Federal Street. 2 buildings back from Bath Road. So, next month, Steve Clark from the Arnold Expedition Historical Society is going to be here. And he probably is our all-time bestseller speaker over the years. When we used to do this over at Bowdoin College in the Beam classroom. Holds 88. We had like 120 people come out to hear about Arnold. So Steve does a great program, and I won't bore you with the rest of them here, but take a card, and there's a lot of diversity here, and I think you'll have a great time. Come. So we're a unique organization in that we look at things holistically, and we have an active research program, a component, an active education program. We are a land trust, protected over like 1,500 acres around the bay, 11 miles of shoreline. The bay, for those of you that don't know it, is that way, down the Andromeda River. And we also do a lot of hardcore advocacy, largely around migratory fish passage, but not just that, toxins as well. A few examples. And I'm going to get this going around right now. I'll do this. This is a series costs us well over $1,000 to put on, even though our speakers don't get paid, and I don't get paid. But Patagonia helps us by incentivizing a little door prize thing with the product, and just picked these up today. A nice 100% organic cotton hoodie sweatshirt thing. And if something doesn't fit, you can go back and exchange it. But what you do is you put some money, like $5 or something, in the basket. You take a little scrap piece of paper, write your name on it, and put it in the tin. And Ron will pick a winner when we get done. So, yeah, so we got some great things going on right now. We're actually, you'll see there's a few different threefold things over there. One of them being archaeology. We're in the middle of a major archaeology dig right now in Dresden, up the river in Dresden Falls. It's a site, it's the most important prehistoric site in the state. It was inhabited between 4,500 and 9,000 years ago because we believe there was a native fishing camp there at the time. Post-glaciation, the river levels were lower, and there's a neck in the Kennebec between the north end of Little Swan Island and the Dresden shore that probably had a submerged waterfall or at least some sort of a serious rapids in there that either stopped or posed an impediment to migratory fish. What better spot to go fishing than at a dam or kind of a dam, right? So it's a popular spot. We're in our second week of a dig there. Also a Revolutionary War vintage dwelling up on the site as well. We just finished, well, sticking with research, we just did a 10-year update, doing the write-up now of aquatic vegetation changes and also land use changes around the bay over time. And that started looking at historical aerial photography, translating it to digital format, geographic information systems, and analyzing those data from that format. So we flew the bay this summer, and that's being worked on now. We just, a few weeks ago, had our, I don't know what number it was, but twice a year we do a bay day where we have kids from around the bay, 4th graders mostly, 3rd through 5th, out doing hands-on environmental workshops and getting really dirty and having a really good time. Everything from watershed modeling to real archaeology dig to scientific methodology, and we have about 180 kids. and we missed you very much. So one of our guides here has been here with us for years and was not here this season. So we do that in the spring and the fall, and kids had a great time. We also go into schools, and we've got a pending school visit, I think, next week or end of this week, doing some owl visits. We have a couple dozen taxidermy mounts we keep in the Boattown Library. Go in and do critter visits often, but we do other things as well. I mentioned the land. We protected an awful lot of land around the bay. The land that we're working on, we protected, raised money to protect it, and donated it in the end to the Archaeological Conservancy, which owns significant archaeology sites around the country. We kept the conservation easement on it, and an archaeological easement as well. Lastly, what am I forgetting? Research advocacy. Yes, we're in the middle of a major advocacy issue down the Brunswick River, 27-mile river, 25-mile river from Sebago Lake to Casco Bay. Still almost totally dammed up. There was fish passage there in the 1880s. There's none there now, basically. And what's happened? There's a mill in Westbrook, Sappy's Sacarapa Mill, old mill. Been some sort of a dam there for a couple hundred years. It's coming out. It's coming out anyway. In the license requirements for fish passage, when it comes out, there needs to be passage because the site has been altered so much over the years of having dams there that when you take the dam out, the bedrock is still going to pose an obstruction. Bedrock has been altered over time. So the license provides for in-stream fish passage. Sappy is going to put an enhanced fish passage in, but at the cost of no more fish passage several dams above there. So 65, they're saying no more fish in 65% of the Presumpscot River habitat, let alone Sebago Lake and the tributaries. So we're fighting that. And Department of Marine Resources is on board with them. Fish and Wildlife is on board. I think no one read the long settlement agreement. It's buried in their little paragraph saying, yeah, no more fish passage, which will up the value of their dams. It will unencumber their dams for the period of the license, which is 2058. Anyway, if we get into stuff like that, it's really important. We're working with Friends of Sebago Lake on that. Question?
Could you just, what's happening with the Andromeda, the classification?
So we've been trying for years to upgrade the Andro classification. Rivers in Maine are classified C through AA, and the Androscoggin, the lower part, is Class C. The reason we try and upgrade them is because the Clean Water Act and the state laws have anti-degradation language in them. Once you get up to a higher level, you can't backslide without a major thing with the EPA. So the lower section here, mostly what we've been testing has been from Warumbo Dam, Lisbon Falls down to the bay. Been testing equivalent of Class B. We tested for E. coli bacteria and dissolved oxygen. Every once in a while there's a blip where it goes just below, but basically it is Class B. The whole Clean Water Act is supposed to be goal-oriented. You aspire to a higher, place. We've been shot down, 3-4 times at the legislature or with the DEP. A lot of the problem has been over the years. One important senator or representative, depending on his term, Tom Saviello, is on the Natural Resources Committee. He spent his career at international paper, and the Androscoggin is theirs to do what they will with. Now, it's been testing well with business as usual, but we're not getting very far. We continue to monitor. Hopefully you'll have a change, we will have a change in administration coming up. Maybe next time around we'll be in a better place to do that.
But he will still be, he's running, right, for re-election?
No.
Can't.
He's done, he's termed out, I guess, basically. So LePage will be gone.
Saviello.
Yes, Saviello is termed out, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
He's gone. So we'll see what happens. So the library here has put on a thing just a couple of years now, I think, called How To Day. And they've solicited various people from around the community to come in and do presentations, how to fill in the blank. And last year, I don't even remember what we called it, but we brought a bunch of critters in and did a how-to something. This year we did how to clean up your river. And last year, Ron and I were both inside here, and we got to talking, and I asked Ron if he'd be willing to come and do an astronomy presentation for us. And he said yes. So it rolled around to this year, and here we are. Ron has been really active with the Southern Maine Astronomers. I don't know if you call it a club or not, but just
It is. Southern Maine Astronomers is a club, and we meet at the planetarium.
So Southern Maine Astronomers. He's been really, really active with schools, with the Cornerstones Science program, mostly here, but also then, I don't know if it's still Cornerstones down at Cape Elizabeth, the Cape School.
Matter of fact, the Cape Elizabeth Library has just got their telescope this year.
Okay.
So they are part of Cornerstones, the telescope library program.
So first speaker event of the season, I rushed out without my little bio for Ron, so I'm telling you what I remember, and he can fill you in on the details. I apologize. But he's been really, really active with kids, with science education for many, many years, and just telling me, I asked him about light pollution right now, and if he's seen that change over time. And yeah, he thought back to 1957 when he first kind of looked up and really appreciated what he was seeing, and yeah, it's changed a lot, as I think many of us know. So I'll let you fill in the blanks, Ron.
Okay.
Flip on this little thing here, and thank you again for coming.
Thanks, Ed.
Put that on somewhere.
Well, you want me to?
I want you to stick that on your.
I was going to shake your hand.
You can do that too. There we go. Now, watch your. If you're gonna go for your glasses, why don't you
No, I shouldn't. Well, I might need them.
So
I'll put them somewhere else.
stick that over here if you like.
That's all right. I'll just put my glasses here. If I need them, I'll grab them.
Okay.
Which I probably will because I'm going to use the chart. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ron Thompson, and I, as Ed said, with Southern Maine Astronomers. We meet the first Thursday of every month at the planetarium at University of Southern Maine, right there in Portland on Falmouth Street. And we have about 42 members this year, which is the most we've had in quite a while. We used to meet in Cumberland, but we meet at the planetarium. And since we've been there, Edward, who's the manager, has trained me and another gentleman to use the projector at the planetarium. So prior to that, we just used the gallery. So people could come in, sit down, we'd do presentations, we'd have our projectors and so forth. Then, once we got the use of the planetarium projector, I go in and fire it up and do what's up for the month. So what you see on your star chart, we can project on the ceiling of the dome of the planetarium. So each month, there's a new sky map, and I'm going to be talking about these. This is the most important part of this little presentation tonight. And as Ed said, I've been interested in astronomy since '57 when Sputnik went up, October of '57. Yeah, so that was a long time ago. Friends and I were laying in the laying in the grass, looking up to see if we could see Sputnik, but it was too small. We couldn't see it. At the same time, I had a friend who just got his ham license, and he says, "Well, come on over to the house. We'll listen to it as it goes by." And I went, "Wow, okay." So I had two bugs bite me that year: astronomy and ham radio. 2 years later, in October, I got my ham license. So I've been licensed since '59. Next year will be 60 years. You're going to be kidding me. Whew. Yeah, I was a sophomore in high school at the time. So anyway, as time went on, you know, like any hobby, you can drop it, you can pick it up again. If you miss something this year, just wait till next year, it'll come around again, because we're flying around the sun once a year, you know, and it doesn't change except for where the planets are, not in our lifetimes anyway. Let's see. Oh, well, heck, let's just get started. I don't need to talk about myself. Let's see if that works. Hello. Bing. Wrong button. Here we go. So what we're going to talk about tonight really are resources, reference material, basic astronomy. We're not going to get into the real heavy stuff like some of these dudes do. We're going to talk about sky maps, which if you all have one, fine. If you don't, we'll get one for you over on the table. Binoculars and telescopes, not in depth, but just how to use them and what it's like to use them, and most importantly, how to get around the night sky. See if I hit the right switch again. Okay, so for resources, before you go out and do anything astronomy, you got to know what's up. And how do you find what's up? Well, you got one in front of you. It's called a sky map. You can get one every month for free on skymaps.com. If you can go on the web, the little address is right along the top of the circle there, skymaps.com. You'll click on download current month, and then it'll give you a series. I think you can print out the last 3 or 4 months along with the current month. So if you want to go back and look and see what it was like in July, you can do that too. So that's what you do. You get to know what's up before you even go out. Visit your local library. Obviously, we're in a library. It's a good place to start. They have a lot of astronomy references. Again, there's skymaps.com. You can subscribe to astronomy magazines. If you got a smartphone, I don't. I have a track phone. It's not smart, just a phone. But you can get an app for that. Some of them have pretty nice apps that you can get for your iPhones or whatever, Androids, I guess the other one is. And some of them have gyros in them. So as you hold them up to the sky, you can go around and you can see it move. And it'll show you what's up wherever you're pointing. It's pretty neat. Some of them are free, some of them, a few bucks. Planispheres, I'll explain what a planisphere is. You can purchase a guide. I'm going to talk about a couple of those, and we have some that we loan with the telescope. And, of course, visit astronomy clubs and go to star parties that are sponsored by clubs. Don't go out and buy a telescope, first thing. How many of you do have a telescope, by the way? Got a couple of hands. Are they orphaned in closets? A lot of them end up orphaned in closets. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, go to star parties and see what all these different types of telescopes are before you go out and buy one. You might like something that you see that you didn't even know existed. And it would be better for you because you'd be able to lug it off the porch and down the stairs and out in the backyard versus something that weighs 10 tons and you're not going to mess with it at all because you don't want to. And it takes a half hour to set up and a half hour to tear down. Go to a star party. Alrighty, magazines, Sky and Tell, astronomy magazines, some of the libraries subscribe to those. So you can come into the library and look. Thumb through them and see what's up for the month. There's software. I mentioned the iPhone, iTouch apps, Starry Night and the Sky, which are professional pieces of software that not only give you, excuse me, your presentation on the computer screen, but you can actually tie it into the computer, tie the computer into the telescope, and run the telescope from the computer. I like to use the telescope, but that's okay. So there's a lot of features out there, a lot of things available. I mentioned a planisphere. Have any of you heard of a planisphere before? No? A few of you have. Okay. It's a whole year of sky maps. Gee, that's pretty good. If you can get a whole year of sky maps in one little wheel like that, that's wonderful. The only thing it doesn't show you, though, is where the current planets are located. All right? So we'll talk about that on the sky map. But you can set that to whatever. Wrong button. This isn't mine. This is the library's. January, right up here. All right, January 7th, I think it is. Yeah, I used the November, January, and March. Can't read without, it's not very well focused. All right, November's over here, December, January, February, and March. So with this set, for going out on January 7th at midnight, this is the sky I'm going to see right here. Now, if I went out on March 7th at 8 o'clock at night, guess what? I'm going to see the same thing. And if I went out in November, on November 7th, at 4 a.m., I'm going to see the same thing. So this kind of brings a light bulb to flash saying, oh, if I can see the same thing in March that I can in November, depending on the hour, wow, that opens a lot of possibilities. So those of you that work at night, coming home after work in the morning before it gets daylight, you can see the opposites, 180 degrees of seasons, constellations, and stuff up there. Versus somebody in the evening, they'll see the current evening constellations. So yes, you can see summer constellations in the winter, and you can see winter constellations in the summer. You just got to get up early in the morning. Pretty neat, huh? I'll explain why you can do that as we go along. Hello? Oh, goodness gracious. Why did this go to sleep? Whew. Holy moly. Was I that slow on the trigger?
It was just an eclipse.
Wow. That's been up there all night, not doing a thing. So some good reference materials. The National Audubon Society Constellations booklet comes with the telescope when you check it out. Pretty neat. They're all alphabetically listed too, so you don't have to thumb through and find what's up for whatever season. If you want to go for Orion, just dig out the O's, and Orion's going to be right there in the O's. Okay? Alphabetically listed, easy to use. It explains the constellation, a little bit of history about it, and maybe some lore, depending. And what objects? Yes, there are objects up there that are within these constellations, and we'll see some when we go into the chart tonight. Night watch, soup to nuts, everything astronomy. The library has 1 or 2 copies, I think, maybe 2 copies. And if the telescope is in use, check out Night Watch and a sky map and learn. Believe it or not, you'll learn an awful lot before you even want to go out there with a binocular or a telescope. These 2 things right here are really important. Okay, moving right along. What's so important about Terence Dickinson's Night Watch? The doggone pages are just loaded with information. They tell you what you can see with your eyes. They tell you what you can see with binoculars. They tell you what you need to use a telescope to see. And they show you approximately where these things are. It's just full of information. Even more so than the monthly sky map. That's why it's good to have a good resource and information on the constellations. Moving right along. Those are resources. It's important to know what to look for, and the resources, most of them, you'll be able to find right here in the library. So let's talk about the basics of stargazing and observing the night sky. That's what we're here for, right? So what do you want to do? First of all, prepare yourself. You dress for cold or cool evenings, regardless of the season. You may need hand warmers, or you may need bug spray. Now, even in the summertime, it gets cool in the summertime. The dew settles, everything gets wet, you know. When we have kids from the school come out in the evening, we make sure that the teacher says dress appropriately. You know, wear some long pants, wear some sneakers, maybe bring a light jacket, even if it is summer, because you never know. I even had a neighbor one time, had to go home because he was cold. He was in a t-shirt. So dress appropriately. SkyMaps.com. First things first. Go right on there, get your sky map, and prepare your evening of viewing. What do you want to look at? Well, first of all, what's on the month's chart? That will be a determining factor as to what you're going to look at. So plan your evening. Set up the telescope at least an hour before viewing. There's a big mirror in the back of that thing. It's thick. And if you keep it in a warm house and take it into a cold evening, it's going to take time for that mirror to acclimate to the temperature. And if you have it in a cold building and you take it out into a warm evening, you're going to have the same issues. Have you ever looked across a road and you see the wavy, mirage-looking stuff? Yeah, well, that's heat coming off of the hot road. If you have a warm mirror through that long tube, not very long, but it's long enough, you're going to have that same effect. The heat waves are going to be, passing up through that tube, and it's going to be hard to focus on something. So that's the reason why you take it out an hour before viewing so the mirror can acclimate to the outside air temperature. Next thing is to take time for your eyes to adjust. 15 to 20 minutes, but boy, once your eyes adjust to the dark, you'd be surprised what you can see. Really, these things are something else. If you're going to use lights, use red lights. Red does not affect your night vision. That's why when you see movies of military, they have red lights on their control panels, or the submarines are all lit up red. Yeah, use red lights. They don't affect your night vision. And periodically you may want to go in for a break to warm up. If you do, when you go back out, you're going to have to do what? Wait for your eyes to acclimate again. But that's okay. That's all right. So, prepare yourself. Eyes and charts. The best place to start. These two things right here give you a magnificent view of the night sky. These are wide-angle, whatever you want to call them, eyes. They give you the dome. You can look up and you can see the dome, the full dome. You can see stars from one end of the sky, horizon to horizon. Sometimes it's best to just use eyes, especially during a meteor shower. If you were looking through binoculars or through a telescope, you probably would miss everything. Occasionally I'll be looking through a telescope and an airplane will go by, or a satellite will go by, but very few and far between. A magnificent view of the night sky. Lay back on a lawn chair. Take that thing and tip it back and lay back and just sit there and look at the sky, look at your chart and say, oh, let's see. Okay, that's over there and that's over there. And you may see some stuff. I guarantee you will. There are a lot of satellites up there. They don't make any noise. They don't have any flashing lights. They'll come into view and then they'll disappear from view. An airplane will be flashing. It'll have red lights and green lights and white lights, and you'll hear the engines roar as they go by. You can tell the difference between a satellite and an airplane. Trust me. You'll be able to see the Milky Way. While we got the charts, this one's blue because that's what I printed on my printer. But that gray area in the middle of your chart, that's the Milky Way. Okay? That's where a lot of stuff lives. Billions and billions of stars. Yes. Carl Sagan. God bless him. Meteor showers, we got one coming up in December, the Orinids. If you know where Orion lives, that's where they will emanate from, the Orinids. They're usually named after the constellation that they come from. Orion's not going to be up yet on your sky map because it's not time. Okay? We have to wait. And I've done that before to people, and it's probably not a nice thing to do. Say, who'd like to see Orion tonight? Hands go up, you know, me. I'm sorry. No Orion tonight. Maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, but that'll be, you know, your option. All righty. Let's take a look at the night sky. Anybody see anything familiar there? The Dipper. What is the Dipper?
Ursa Major.
It is. It's part of Ursa Major. And once you can find the Big Dipper, you can find Polaris. I'll show you that in a minute, too, a little bit better. Ooh, doggone it, here we go again. What am I hitting? I don't like this. This is nasty. Come on, there we go. Oh, there's a button below this button that I get my fat thumb on. Oh, gee. Pamela should have given me some instruction. Anyway, let's just for right now, I'll get it. Well, look over that and see what you can find. We found the Big Dipper. All right. If you can find the Big Dipper, regardless of the time of year, because it's circumpolar, you can find the North Star. You see these two bowl stars right here? These two stars, they point right towards Polaris. Bingo! And there's the handle of the Little Dipper, which is Ursa Minor. Interesting, isn't it? That's how easy it is to get your way around the sky. With the handle of the Big Dipper, we can follow the arc to Arcturus, and then spike down to Spica. Just some tricks. Now, if you take the bowl star where the handle joins the bowl and you go through Polaris, you'll come approximately to another star arrangement, which is Cassiopeia. Okay? Cassiopeia and Ursa Major, along with Polaris, are three important pieces of a puzzle for taking pictures and setting up a telescope to do that. So astronomers who are really into this stuff up to their eyeballs or even beyond, they polar align their telescopes so that there are no star trails. If you opened a camera up and just set it in one position for an hour, you would see this star hold still and everything else go around. I mean, in an hour's time, they wouldn't move very much. But if you let it go, you would see star trails circulating around Polaris. It's really something to see. I've seen them in I think if you can Google star trails, maybe you can get something. All right. Excuse me. Here we go again, big fat thumb. Here are the twins. Here's Auriga, the charioteer. Cancer is in here somewhere. Yeah, right here. There's Cancer. It's very, very slim. Here's Leo. Leo, you can tell Leo by the crook in his neck. I don't think Leo is on that chart yet. Anyway, you can find your way around once you're familiar with the night sky. It gets easier as time goes on. So anyway, let's move on. So eyes and charts, you get the current month, or in some cases it would be a season. Some books, some charts are for the whole quarter. Get familiar with the constellations, and what do you see looking north, south, east, and west? All right, what I like to do is to have you take a chart and fold it right bugger. Fold it right along this line right here, where that yellow arrow is. Fold it right down there, so it looks square. Now there's a reason for this. So fold that so that it's square. A lot of information on that, isn't there? It's a good resource. Okay. Again, I already talked about finding the North Star, Polaris, Cassiopeia, and Ursa Major. They're directly across from each other almost. Once you can find north, everything else is a piece of cake. So let's go north. Put your thumb on north and flip it over so you can read it. Let's put the lights back on. Oh, thanks, Ed. I want everybody to be able to see your chart. Okay, what do you see when you're looking north? Got Ursa Major right here, and there's the Big Dipper. Now the Big Dipper, as you can see, is only a part of Ursa Major. We call that an asterism. There's another one on the other end of the chart, and we'll talk about it in a minute. That's an asterism. And again, you use those two bowl stars to find Polaris, which is the North Star. These other constellations, like Draco, winds its way in and around. You have Cepheus, the king, he's there. Camelopardalis, the lynx. These will circle around, and in this hemisphere, at this latitude, we can see these constellations year-round. Okay. The Milky Way runs right across. And you can see that gray area in your chart. So when you go up further, you'll notice that, well, we can read Cygnus, but when we look at the summer triangle, we'll want to look at it from the other direction. It'll be a little easier. We also have some other neat constellations. The Great Square of Pegasus. This is Pegasus, big horse. The front end of it is, of course, Pegasus, but this part of it is Andromeda. The hind legs of Pegasus are actually Andromeda. And there's something in there we'll talk about in a little bit. All right, now once you know how to get north and can identify those, let's go south. So you do a 180 and you hold your chart up to the night sky and you say, oh yeah, okay. Now you got to remember, folks, there are no lines in the sky. Okay, they're on the chart to help you tie those stars together to make it look like a constellation. So you got to use your imagination here. So with the
Excuse me, do you need a compass to find?
Oh, you need a compass? Yep. Compasses, very good. If you can't find north and you're not sure, here we go. It was stuck. A compass. A compass. Guess what? Compasses work at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. They work during the day, but they also work at night. So if you don't know where north is, you can use your compass. Oh, north is that way. How about that? Anyway, yes, thank you for bringing that up. Compasses do work at night, and they will help you find where to look to find the Big Dipper. Because if there are a lot of trees, and the Big Dipper is down low like it is right now, you might not see it. So that would be a big help. Okay, going south. So we just do a 180. That's north, this is south. So I'm going to hold it up. What do you see south?
Mars.
Ooh, Mars. Right in the middle of Capricornus. How about that? What else?
The Teapot.
The Teapot. All right, let's talk about the Teapot. You remember I said that the Big Dipper was a what? An asterism. The Teapot is also, here we go again. My goodness, I'm sorry, this is really messing me up. The Teapot is an asterism of Sagittarius.
What is an asterism?
Okay? So, it's an asterism as well as, and of course now you know that Ursa Major is a big constellation, and the Big Dipper is just part of it, as well as the Teapot. It looks pretty large when you look at it in the night sky, but when you tie all the other pieces of it together, it's a big constellation.
So asterism is just a constellation within a constellation?
No, it's a series of, it's a diagram of stars within the constellation. It's not, it's part of a constellation. Yes? All right, somebody said we see Mars. Ooh, I see Mars. There's a dotted line that runs from here to here. Everybody find the dotted line? You see what it's called?
Ecliptic.
It's called the ecliptic. I'm going to do a little quiz. Yeah, we're having a quiz already. All right, ecliptic and apparent motion. This is an important quiz, though. Early on, it's important. Where does the sun come up in the morning?
East.
Where does it set in the evening? My next slide is, really? No, no. The sun doesn't move. We are moving, okay? It looks like it's moving because it does appear to come up in the east and set in the west, but it isn't moving. We're spinning. We go around once every 24 hours. So that motion makes it appear that the sun comes up and sets like it does. Believe it or not, the stars do the same thing. The stars will come up in the east, and they'll set in the west. Because we're going around the sun. So not only are we spinning once every 24 hours, we're going around the sun once every how many days? 365 yes, thank you. 365 and a quarter. So each day we only go around 0.986 degrees. We don't quite go a full degree, but we go enough, far enough, so that if, let's get the right button, if tonight we're going to look at this star right here at 8 o'clock, at 8 o'clock tomorrow night it's going to be over here. The night after that it'll be over here. The night after that it'll be over here. That's why you need a sky map every month. Well, you could get by with a quarterly sky map. But now does everybody understand apparent motion? It appears that the sun moves across the sky. It appears that the stars move across the sky. But it's us that's doing the moving. A little more detail on the ecliptic. It's an even plane pretty much, except for Pluto. He's tilted a little bit. But all of the planets circle the sun on the ecliptic. Not directly on it necessarily, but close to it. All right? That's why Mars looked off a little bit. And, oh, I'm sorry?
The ecliptic being the plane of their...
It's the dotted line on your chart.
What do we real that? Yeah, the plane of all those...
Yep. It's the plane that the planets follow as they circle the sun. And the inner planets here are kind of projected up from this little area. These are all the inner planets here. You know, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And then all the big gas giants, you got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, and there's little Pluto. He's still a planet in my mind. Anyway, those of you that are interested in astrology, the 12 constellations of the Zodiac are on that ecliptic as well. Believe it or not. Let's look and see again. Oh, Charles Messier already? Well, I'll come back to Charles Messier in a minute. I got it in the wrong spot. This is new and improved, and I didn't improve it quite right. All right, let's look at this. Here is Mars. Let me get this button right. Here's Mars. Here's Saturn over here, if you didn't see Saturn yet. And those are the only two planets right now that are visible on the ecliptic. We just lost Jupiter. Jupiter was pretty. In July, Mars was huge, red and bright. And it's still the brightest planet right now. It's still close to us. But we are pulling away from it. Okay.
So we can see it directly in the south at 8 o'clock. We can see it tonight at 8 o'clock.
Yes, you will. Yeah.
Red.
Yes, absolutely. Now, normally you can't see color at night because the cones of your eyes don't work, just the rods. But if it's a bright red planet, you'll see red. If it's a bright red star, you'll see red. If it's a bright blue star, you'll see red. If it's a bright yellow star, you'll see yellow. We have a star up there right now. It's called Alberio, and I'll point it out in a minute. And we call Alberio the Scout Star because the pair of stars, one's blue and one's gold. Pretty neat, huh? Alberio. Well, heck. Let's talk about Messier, and we'll get into a little more depth here. Get this right button. Let's look at what we determined to be the summer triangle, and you can see it outlined on your chart. The summer triangle is made by taking the bright alpha stars of these three constellations, Cygnus, Aquila, and Lyra. The alpha star in Lyra is Vega, the alpha star in Cygnus is Deneb, and the alpha star in Aquila is, I'm looking right at it and I can't read it. Altair, yes. Whew. Has it been that long a day? Okay, that makes up the summer triangle. Now you'll notice in Lyra there's a number. It says M57. Everybody find M57? Okay. Now, find Pegasus again, the great square of Pegasus, and go over towards Andromeda's leg over here, and you'll see another number. And if you hold your map east, so you're looking east, you'll see it right side up pretty much. M51, 31, M31, M31. That's the Andromeda Galaxy. There are other M items. Look at the Teapot. Look at all the M numbers there. Now those M numbers represent the Messier catalog. Charles Messier in the 1700s was flying around with his telescope looking for comets. That was a big thing back then. He discovered, and his catalog attributed to him, the catalog of 110 items now, today. 110 items. Some of them are called globular clusters. Some of them are called open clusters. Some are called galaxies. Some are called nebulae. Exploded stars, in other words. And 110 of those are cataloged. If you want to go online and Google Messier, Charles Messier, you can probably pull up a chart and it'll tell you what the different items are. Okay? So, there's a lot of M objects to look at on your sky map. The Summit Triangle has M57 right here. And across from our scout star, Albireo, is M27, which is the Dumbbell Nebula. That's some pretty neat stuff to find, even in the summer sky. Never mind the winter sky. All right, over here you've got the constellation M31, which is the Andromeda Galaxy. There's other good stuff up there. There's another galaxy near the handle of the Big Dipper. Let's see. Anyway, let's continue on. That's what the M items are. And here's some pictures of some of those M items. Here's the two galaxies that are up near the Big Dipper. I'm going to switch that back momentarily. Those two galaxies are right here. M81 and M82, and those are favorites because they're year-round. They're circumpolar. M65 and 66, gee, I did it again. M65 and 66 are in Leo constellation. M51 is in the near the handle of the Big Dipper. M31 is the Andromeda Galaxy. M45 is called the Subaru Cluster. Ooh. How many of you are familiar with the Subaru Cluster? If you have a Subaru, you know what I'm talking about, because that's the emblem. It's the Pleiades, properly termed, the Pleiades. It's beautiful, naked eye, and it's gorgeous in a pair of binoculars. I'll explain why. M42 happens to be the Orion Nebula. That's coming up pretty soon. M13 is a globular cluster. It's in Hercules. Hercules is still visible, and I'll point that out on the chart for you. M27 is the dumbbell I talked about, and M57 is the Ring Nebula. That was in Lyra, and this one was just to the other side of Albireo. So those are some of the objects that you can see. M42, which is Orion's nebula, you can see it naked eye in a dark sky. It's beautiful in binoculars. And in a telescope, you really kind of scrunch it down to a narrow grouping. With your eyes, you can obviously see the whole thing. In binoculars, you can get a good outline of it. In the telescope, you just get a little piece.
So to see those the way we're seeing them on the screen, is that with a telescope or binoculars or something else?
Let me be truthful with you. Telescope, binocular, telescope, binocular, eyes and binoculars. These you need a telescope for. And these two, you can see them with binoculars, but they're better in a little telescope. So there's still a lot of stuff. Okay, just for the heck of it, go to the back side of your sheet. I think you've got more than I have. All right? There's a few sections on there. One lists what you can see with your eyes. Quite a few. The other section, what you can see with a pair of binoculars. Quite a few more. And if you take those two categories and put them together, you can see more with your eyes and binoculars than you can see with the telescope. And there's a good reason for using eyes and binoculars versus a telescope, and that's because, like I started to explain, as you increase magnification, you zoom in closer and you only get pieces of these things. That's why binoculars are better on some of these M objects. That's why it's good to use the little Constellations book that comes with the telescope. Or get one for yourself. Yes?
What would be the minimum magnification we would need on binoculars?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay.
These Messier objects are just so named because he was the first one to identify them or to see them?
Well, he cataloged them and then, just said, this is something in this area of the sky. And as years have gone by, they've identified. It hasn't been that long that we've learned that the Andromeda Galaxy was a galaxy. I think that was Hubble back in the late 1800s. I can't remember for sure. Don't quote me. Maybe some of you know better. But anyway, it took a long time for these things to become identified. Once telescopes improved and people could look at these things closer, then they were able to discern what they actually were.
Behind the sequence of numbers, it's not bright. Is it, why is this N51 and that N31? Why?
Well, if you kind of look at it on the chart, you'll see some of them. Well, let me explain it in a different way. The club has an opportunity to look at all 110 Messier objects once a year, and it's usually in March. And those M objects will appear on the horizon, and as we circle the sun during the evening, on the dark side, obviously,